The Curse of the Ancient Artifact. It was a dark and stormy night, and Mary was home alone in her small, isolated cabin in the woods. She had always loved the peace and quiet of her little home, nestled among the tall trees, but tonight the howling wind and pounding rain made her feel uneasy. She tried to distract herself by reading a book, but the creepy noises outside kept dragging her attention away. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and decided to go to bed early. As she was drifting off to sleep, she heard a knock at the door. At first, she thought it was just the wind, but the knock came again, louder and more urgent this time. Reluctantly, Mary got up and made her way to the door, her heart racing with fear. When she opened the door, she was confronted by a group of strange, hooded figures. They were soaked from the rain and their faces were hidden in the shadows of their hoods. "What do you want?" Mary demanded, trying to keep the trembling out of her voice. One of the figures stepped forward and spoke in a low, raspy voice. "We've come for the ancient artifact that you possess." "I don't know what you're talking about," Mary replied, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. "Don't play games with us," the figure growled. "We know you have the artifact, and we will stop at nothing to get it. Hand it over, or suffer the consequences." Mary had no idea what they were talking about, but she knew she had to get rid of them before things escalated. She reached out and tried to shut the door, but the hooded figures pushed back, forcing their way into the cabin. As they burst through the door, Mary turned and ran, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear the figures chasing after her, their footsteps echoing through the small space. She knew she had to find a way to escape, but the cabin was surrounded by dense woods and there was no one around for miles. She stumbled into the bedroom and grabbed a small wooden box from under the bed. She had no idea what was inside, but it was the only thing she could think of as a weapon. As she turned to face the hooded figures, they closed in on her, their eyes glowing in the darkness. Mary swung the box at them, but it was no match for their superior strength. They overpowered her, wrestling her to the ground and taking the box. As they tore the box from her grasp, Mary realized too late what it was, the ancient artifact they had been searching for. It was said to possess great power, and it was clear that these hooded figures would stop at nothing to get their hands on it. As they disappeared into the night, Mary knew she had made a terrible mistake. The artifact was cursed, and anyone who possessed it was doomed to a life of suffering and death. And as the darkness closed in around her, Mary knew that she was the next victim of its curse. Mary lay on the floor, her body trembling with fear and pain. She knew she had to get up and find help, but she was too weak to move. As the minutes ticked by, she began to feel a strange sensation creeping over her. It was as if something was inside her, taking control of her body and mind. She fought against it, but it was too strong. With a final surge of strength, she managed to crawl to the door and pull herself to her feet. She stumbled out into the night, her vision blurring and her head spinning. She could feel the presence inside her growing stronger, pushing her to the brink of madness. She stumbled through the woods, her body moving on its own as the ancient artifact took control. She could feel it urging her towards the nearest town, where it would have access to more victims. As the first rays of dawn appeared on the horizon, Mary finally collapsed in the center of town, her body writhing in pain. She could feel the presence inside her reaching its climax, preparing to unleash its full power. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Mary's body gave out and she lay still, her soul consumed by the ancient artifact. And as the townspeople gathered around her lifeless body, they knew that the curse had claimed another victim, and that the horrors of the ancient artifact were far from over. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel Frightening Fiction if you want to hear more stories.